Alright, you guys, so the first request is coming in. People asking to draw this guy who was inspired by this guy from the Back to the Future films. So today's tutorial is going to be on drawing a mad scientist. So characters that have characteristics they have in common. Definitely the wild hair and the kind of wild look in their eyes. And wearing a white lab coat, of course. So we're going to work on, you can do this one either in, let's do this one in lesson number 13. I mean, I'm going to turn my paper this way so it's nice and long. So let's work in that 3/4 view function that we were doing. So we're going to start by just drawing a skeleton. So because his body type is tall and thin, far too close to the top of the paper. And his spine's going to be a little bit curved because of the amount of time he spends working at his desk. So here we go, we're going to keep it like this for his basic body. So then what I would do is if I was using pencil or paper, I would then go back and use my eraser lightly to try and lighten some of these lines so I can start building on top of them. So then we start blocking his body out into its basic shape. His torso is going to be a kind of square shape. And then because he's a scientist, we're going to have his trousers up nice and high. And then some very long, skinny trousers that finish just a little bit too high. And since these are his work trousers, I'm going to give them some creases on the front. Since he's a professional and all. Since we're down here, we'll give him some shoes. And since we said he's a mad scientist, we'll give him some socks. Always good to show the big toe through the socks. And we'll make sure he's got some flip-flops on. Very inappropriate for the laboratory. Or is it laboratory? I'm just gonna kind of copy what we did for the first one. Try and make sure your feet are the same size. Also this time the big toe is going to be on the inside.
Health conditions related to this search include
And then just for fun, we'll make him have a hole in this sock. And have his big toe sticking out. Don't forget the toenail. Alright, it's pretty good stuff for the top. Okay, and so, because we're inspired back again by Dog from Back to the Future, he'd always wear some pretty ridiculous shirts underneath his top. So we'll do something similar. So you can erase that top line, and we could try and give him a button-down shirt, which he hasn't buttoned all the way up. He's super skinny, rail thin because he always forgets to eat. Just keeps working instead. Draw some buttons on his shirt. Okay, and then most importantly, it's got to be his lab coat. I'm just kind of working around the skeleton that I've lightly erased.
Again, keep it nice.
Skinny to accentuate how skinny our character is. And then when we have these kind of corners of our material on the inside, we'll draw our material bunching up a little bit like this.
Same over on this side. And then we have to make
our lab coat come down. Because he's got this kind of weird pose today where he is, just find the right pen so I can demonstrate this. Because his body's kind of like this, our lab coat would be hanging down this way. So it's going to go a little bit behind our body. These lines, these t-shirt lines I don't need anymore. And our lab coat is going to come out from behind our collar here. Remember, make sure we keep it nice and loose with our sketching. Just a little bit over our shirt there. And in the same way this folds in here, and doing the same over on this side. So that's the basic shell of our lab coat, and then there's going to be the back of our lab coat, which is running behind it. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to erase the pants and the shirt that I don't need anymore. And so the next thing we've got to draw is the lapel. So the lapel of a jacket is the collar of the jacket. And if we were looking straight on, it would be something like this. But because we can't really see it too well here, we're just going to have to go behind like that. And this one, we're barely going to see it at all. Okay, so there we are. We've got his basic skeleton and body all kind of drawn out right now. Next thing we've got to do is to go in and work some on his face, on his neck, and on his hands, and then we're going to be about done. So because he's so skinny, gave him this crazy long neck. So as always, I think I end up drawing the neck way too long. So I'm going to go back and re-sketch that a little bit. Otherwise he's just going to have a giant head. Always like these egg-shaped heads. You can always change it later on. This is, we're just sketching at this time, kind of at this 3/4 view, remember? So in my plan, my scientist has made some kind of scientific discovery. So he's going to have something over here in his hand. So that's where he needs to be looking at. Here's his nose. Being able to erase is a really important part whilst we're fleshing these kind of early sketches out. So it's really important to keep your sketching really light. To make our scientist look pretty wild, we're going to give him quite kind of small eyes that are very wide apart, just because that's something a little bit different, which means it's unsettling to the viewer, and so we'll add to that. So I added this kind of eyebrow behind just because that supports the eye. But you don't have to. You could just leave it like that if you wanted. But you see how adding the little eyebrow area helps it come into the head. And even if I don't like that in the end, I might, that eyebrow helps keep the eye into the face rather than making it look like it's poking out. Okay, so I think my scientist is going to be happy. So I'm going to make this top lip stick out really far. And he's going to have a kind of insanely big smile. And just to accentuate that he's a kind of mad scientist, you're going to hear me say that a lot, his bottom lip's going to be a bit wavy. And then because he's obsessed with his work, he doesn't ever go to the dentist, so we're going to give him some pretty bad teeth. Making them quite angular and square. Again, like those kind of angles adding to the unsettling aesthetic of this character. All right, now that I've drawn that, I feel like that bottom lip is sticking out way too far. The rest of his mouth kind of coming around there, like so. Okay, of course he needs an ear, so our ear is going to be kind of in line with the top of our eye. Depending on how old you want to make your character, depends how long you want his ear to be. Your ear is the only facial feature that, your ear continues growing your entire life. So if he's a older guy, like the two scientists that we looked at earlier on, he's going to have some pretty long ears. Maybe you can see a lip, a little bit of them over this side as well. The reason I just erased that is we're going to give him some lines on his forehead because he's an older guy. And then we're going to start drawing this kind of crazy hair. So thinking back to, or looking back at both of our characters, both have this kind of wild, big, unkempt hair, big forehead, long hair that's kind of all over the place. So I think something like this is good for my character. Okay, the eyes. So again, making them look mad. You could just go with a pupil. I'm having my eyes look in different ways. And then I kind of like how Rick Sanchez has his monobrow as well. Kind of adds to somebody who, the look of somebody who just doesn't care. Give it some wrinkles to make him look older. Because we can see part of his chest, we're gonna draw his clavicle. Maybe some wild chest hair as well. All right, then finally we're gonna draw whatever it is that he has in his hand. And so I'm just gonna draw some kind of conical flask, if that's the right word. And then we've got to draw his hand holding it. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because it's a weird shape. I think whatever my scientist has discovered, created, is so awesome that it just floats on its own, so he doesn't even need to hold it. It defies gravity. These long, skinny, sausage-like fingers. You might give your character 4 fingers, or like in many cartoons, just give them 3 fingers and a thumb. Drawing the heel of the hand. A skinny wrist. Definitely going to have a watch on. He's got to keep track of his experiments with his watch, if nothing else, even if it's a broken watch. And clean that up a little bit in there. Done like that. And then one more hand over here. And this hand's going to be holding a cup of coffee. Because I'd imagine if I was a mad scientist, I wouldn't be able to do anything apart from have a cup of coffee, without having a cup of coffee with me at all times, I should say. That's an awful hand, so let's try and do that again. Sometimes it's easier, or it's definitely easier, to try and draw the object first of all, and then work out how the hand would grab hold of it. So here's my coffee cup. You know what, maybe he's so stunned that he's actually dropped his coffee. There's coffee spilling out everywhere. Alright, so our last step now would be to go ahead and ink everything and colour it. Maybe add some text explaining how he's feeling. I will put I would like to hear your thoughts or comments or requests in our Google Classroom. And for those of you who are not my students, I will put my email address up on the screen as well for you to get in contact. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you've enjoyed it too, and I cannot wait to see your results. Signing off.